I think it's important for society to be pro-life because I think when you look at the arguments for being pro-choice, when you examine them in greater depth, they say really troubling and worrying things about where our value comes from. My name's Calum Miller and I'm a medical doctor working in Oxford in England. I wasn't pro-life when I grew up, but it was really during medical school when I learned about the reality of development in the womb, and I learned about the reality of abortion, and then I examined the arguments really rigorously. I looked at the ethical literature and the ethical arguments. I looked at the impact of abortion on women. And so when I went to medical school and I studied for 6 years in Oxford, I really found that the arguments for the pro-choice side didn't add up. But actually, being in medicine and understanding the reality of unborn life and of abortion made it very easy to see just how much it's euphemized and how unborn children are dehumanized. In other countries, it can often be very difficult because either there are hardly any pro-life people in those countries, or there are many pro-life people in those countries, but they don't feel equipped or have the expertise or have the training to be able to campaign well and to represent pro-life values in an effective, strategic way. The American pro-life movement can really support the international pro-life movement by using their international stature and influence. And this is incredibly important because of the ways that the pro-choice movement moves from country to country, using false premises such as international human rights law or a medical necessity for abortion, or diplomatic pressure, or the vehicle of international aid to push abortion overseas in ways that countries don't want. We can look at ways to improve and increase transparency of how international aid is spent so that it's not just given to abortion providers, but is actually used to help vulnerable, dependent people in the developing world. When we think about how to have a really just society, we need to be looking out more than anything for those vulnerable people who are more dependent, who are perhaps less developed, or who don't have quite the same independence or mental abilities. Because that is the only way we can really ground human equality and human value, and it's the only way we can have justice and stand up for the weak and the vulnerable and marginalized in our society.